Welcome to Go Fact Yourself, the Top 10 Lists podcast. Get ready for quite the top 10 journey today.
Oh, yeah. What have we got?
We're diving into this amazing collection of moments, declassified stuff, where the U.S. government basically kind of admitted to some truly wild things.
The oops, did we say that out loud? Moments. Love those.
Exactly. Think of it like a shortcut to the stranger side of documented American history. We'll dig into the facts, try and figure out what they actually mean.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how things that sound like, I don't know, movie plots actually have paper trails and government files. Really blurs the lines.
Totally. And our guide for this top 10 journey is this piece of top research called, get this, Top 10 Times the U.S. Government Accidentally Admitted Wild Shirt, then pretended they didn't.
Okay, sounds promising.
Right. It digs into declassified documents, stuff that sounds, frankly, more like sci-fi. We're talking potentially nuking the moon, mind control attempts. So our mission is to navigate this top research, pull out the biggest, most eyebrow-raising bits for everyone listening.
And this top research really does shine a light on some, let's say, unconventional approaches taken in the name of national security over the years. Definitely some outside-the-box thinking.
You could say that. So we've got 10 instances, counting down from 10. We'll unpack each one, highlight the most unbelievable parts, and stick to what the declassified records suggest happened.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, number 10. We tried to nuke the moon for vibes.
For vibes? Seriously?
Well, maybe not just for vibes, but the top research details, Project A119, U.S. Air Force, Cold War era. The objective, detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon. The main reason, to impress the Soviets. A show of force.
Okay, wow. That's ambitious. The top research pointed out it wasn't scientific, just a flex, basically. In that Cold War pressure cooker, I guess, maybe made a kind of bizarre sense, like, look what we can do.
Yeah, exactly. The plan came from the Armor Research Foundation. They proposed a 1.7 kiloton blast.
So smaller than Hiroshima.
Yeah, less powerful, but the idea was it'd still be visible from Earth, like a massive flash on the moon.
Right. A very unsubtle message.
And here's a kicker the top research mentions. A young consultant on this project, Carl Sagan.
The Carl Sagan? Before he was Sagan?
Apparently so. Involved in planning to nuke the moon.
That's incredible. Makes you wonder, what the internal discussions were like back then. Even if he was young, having scientists consider it. It shows the pressure, right?
Totally. Planetary fireworks. Anyway, the top research says they got canceled in '59. Worries about scientific credibility, negative consequences. Maybe not messing up the moon.
Probably wise.
And the documents confirming it. They only came out in the late 90s. So, yeah, not just some internet rumor.
It really shows how much history can be hidden, and declassification just pulls back the curtain on these, mind-blowing projects. Good thing reason prevailed on that one.
You think? Okay, number 9. Yes, we did try to mind control cats. No, it didn't work.
Oh, I think I've heard whispers of this one. Acoustic Kitty.
That's the one. Project Acoustic Kitty. The top research lays it out. CIA, 1960s. The goal was literally to surgically implant microphones and antennas into cats.
To use them as spies,
Yeah.
And the top research mentions the cost, right? Wasn't it something like $20 million?
Cool, $20 million, which is staggering. Shows the kind of resources they had and maybe the weird directions they were willing to explore.
Definitely unconventional surveillance.
The top research details the surgery. Implanting transmitters, mics, antennas inside the cat, sometimes woven into the tail. Can you imagine the vet bills? Or just the whole concept meeting.
It does make you think about the ethics, even if it sounds, kind of ridiculous now. I mean, pretty invasive for the poor cats.
Right. And the punchline, according to the top research, the very first spy cat they released near, I think, the Soviet embassy got hit by a taxi. Instantly.
Oh, no. You're kidding.
Nope. Killed almost immediately. End of mission 1.
$20 million for that. Wow.
The top research says the program got canceled pretty quickly after that. Documented failure in the declassified files.
A sort of darkly funny example of how unpredictable intel work can be, I guess. Especially when your agent is, a cat. They have their own plans.
Very true. Okay, brace yourself for number 8. We absolutely did LSD mind experiments. Oops.
MKUltra. This was much darker.
Yeah, much darker. The top research outlines the CIA's MKUltra program, starting in the 50s. Experiments testing LSD, hypnosis, electroshock, sensory deprivation on American citizens, often without them knowing.
And that's the core issue, isn't it? The top research highlights this total disregard for consent, for ethics, experimenting on people, unwitting people. It's a massive abuse of power.
Seriously disturbing. The top research says victims included mental patients, prisoners, even just the general public. People pulled into these tests with no idea.
It's chilling.
And there's the Frank Olson story. A scientist secretly dosed with LSD by the CIA. Died days later. Officially a fall or suicide, but the top research notes his family later got a settlement, found evidence of a head injury, suggesting something else.
Yeah, the Olson case is just tragic. And it really points towards, a cover-up, doesn't it? The inconsistencies the top research mentions, it's deeply unsettling, a human cost to these experiments.
And making it harder to know the full truth, the top research says loads of in-culture records were deliberately destroyed in 1973.
Right, so we probably only see a fraction of what really went on, a sanitized version.
The stated goals, according to the top research, inducing amnesia, forcing confessions, creating obedience, testing truth serums. Like a spy movie plot, but terrifyingly real.
The destruction of records just makes it worse, really. Undermines any trust. And those goals, mind control, forced confessions.
Yeah.
They're just fundamentally against, a free society.
Okay, shifting gears slightly for number 7. We've tried controlling the weather, and no, it's not a conspiracy.
Weather modification. Project Popeye.
You got it. The top research details Project Popeye. U.S. military 60s and 70s during the Vietnam War. The objective: use cloud-seeding silver iodide to make the monsoon season last longer over the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
To disrupt enemy supply lines, right. Make the trail muddy and impassable.
Exactly. And the top research says it wasn't just theory, they actually caused statistically significant increases in rainfall in the target areas.
So it worked, to some extent. They actively used weather as a weapon.
Yep. The top research notes it got exposed in 71, caused a big international stink, and eventually led to the INMO Treaty in 1978.
Which basically bans environmental modification techniques as weapons of war. It shows how seriously the world took the implications.
An international treaty specifically about not weaponizing weather. Pretty wild.
And the potential consequences. Manipulating weather on that scale. Unpredictable. Risky. The treaty makes sense.
And, surprise, surprise, the top research points out the Pentagon initially denied it all.
Of course.
But declassified records later proved it happened. Another case of nothing to see here until the documents come out.
It really highlights the importance of that declassification process for getting to the truth, doesn't it? Especially when there's an initial denial.
Definitely. Okay, number 6 sounds like pure cartoon logic. We were this close to using bomb-loving bats in WWII.
Oh, the bat bombs. Project X-ray. I love this one.
It's incredible. The top research explains the plan. Strap tiny incendiary bombs to bats.
Release them over Japan, let them roost in wooden buildings, then boom, incendiaries ignite.
Exactly. Mass fires started by bats.
The ingenuity is kind of amazing, even if it's, completely bizarre.
Yeah.
Using animal behavior like that.
And guess who came up with it? The top research says it was a dentist. Little S. Adam.
The dentist. Seriously. Okay, that's unexpected.
Right. And get this. The top research mentions test runs. They accidentally burned down a U.S. airbase in New Mexico with escaped armed bats.
No, really, that's almost too perfect. A reminder of the risks of highly experimental weapons, maybe.
You think? The top research also mentions they had to refrigerate the bats to put them in hibernation until release. Imagine managing thousands of chilled, bomb-carrying bats.
The logistics must have been insane.
Ultimately, the top research says the project was dropped. They went with the atomic bomb instead.
Which, kind of puts the bat bomb idea into perspective, doesn't it? A very stark contrast in destructive power and strategic thinking.
Understatement of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, we're at number 5. Psychic spies are real, and we funded them.
Right. Project Stargate, or Grill Flame initially, remote viewing.
That's it. The top research talks about this CIA program running from the 70s into the 90s, using remote viewers, people trying to use psychic powers to see enemy locations, get information.
The fact they funded this for so long, exploring something so out there for intel gathering, it's pretty remarkable. Shows the lengths they'd go to during the Cold War, maybe? Looking for any edge?
And the top research includes some spooky anecdotes, like remote viewers describing a Soviet base before satellites confirmed it, or details about Jupiter's rings before the Voyager probe got there.
Those accounts are definitely intriguing, though you always have to be a bit careful, right? Coincidence, suggestion, The human mind's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
But still, fascinating claims in the top research.
Absolutely. And a 95 CIA review, the top research says, called the program. Well, it said it had unexplained successes, but was not actionable.
Which basically means we saw some weird stuff we can't explain, but we can't reliably use it.
Pretty much. They couldn't bank on it for real intel. The top research notes it all came out thanks to freedom of information requests eventually.
And that declassification gives us this amazing glimpse into the weirder side of intelligence efforts. Trying to validate something like psychic powers for spying. What a challenge.
Okay, into the top 4. Number 4. We tried to kill Castro with an exploding seashell. No. Really.
The Castro plots. Operation Mongoose. There were some truly bizarre ones.
This one's up there. The top research details this CIA plan from the 60s. The idea: plant a really colorful, noticeable seashell packed with explosives.
In Castro's favorite scuba diving spot, hoping he'd pick it up.
Exactly. He picks it up. Boom. Creative, maybe?
Creative, definitely. Also, slightly desperate sounding. The top research really highlights the intense focus on getting rid of him.
But here's the best part. According to the top research, the plan got scrapped. Why? Because they couldn't find a seashell in the Caribbean that was big enough to hold enough explosives.
You're kidding. The limiting factor was seashell size.
Apparently. Not a lack of will, just inadequate seashell real estate.
It is almost unbelievable. The practicalities tripping up the outlandish plan. And the top research mentions others too, right? LSD in his diving suit, depilatory powder for the beard.
Yep. Trying to make his iconic beard fall out. The level of imaginative malice was high.
Unconventional thinking is one way to put it.
All right, number 3. We literally tried to kill goats with our minds.
Oh, the Jedi Project stuff. First Earth Battalion.
That's the one. The top research talks about this Pentagon think tank in the 70s, exploring psychic warfare. Project Jedi. Experiments included training soldiers to use telekinesis, specifically to try and stop a goat's heart just by staring at it.
Stare a goat to death. Okay.
I told you this top research was wild.
It really shows that interest in paranormal or non-traditional methods that popped up in parts of the military then, looking for any possible edge, however strange.
And the top research says they studied other stuff too, more remote viewing, intuition enhancement, auras, even trying to walk through walls.
Some more like Eastland than the Pentagon.
Right. And the conclusion, by 1995, according to the top research, the Pentagon decided these efforts were, quote, not operationally useful.
Shocker. Turns out staring didn't stop the goats' hearts.
Apparently not useful enough for the battlefield. It shows the gap between, exploring fringe ideas and getting actual practical results.
A very wide gap in this case.
Okay, number 2. This one's much more recent and still unfolding. Yeah, about those UFOs, we don't know what they are either.
UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. The official terminology shift.
Exactly. The top research covers the Pentagon's confirmation in 2021 that these things, UAPs, are real. A big shift.
It is significant, isn't it? That official acknowledgement. Moving away from decades of just dismissing reports, admitting some things are flying around that they can't identify, and that show advanced tech. That's huge.
The top research mentions the pilot videos we've all seen now. The tic-tac, the gimbal footage, Navy pilots, highly trained, reporting objects doing things that seem to defy physics. No visible propulsion, incredible speeds, weird maneuvers.
And those credible reports from pilots, combined with the sensor data, that's what makes it harder to just brush off, as the top research suggests. It challenges our understanding of what's possible technologically.
Well, totally. The top research discusses that 2021 ODNI report, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. They looked at 144 UAP incidents, explained only one.
Only one. Out of 144.
Yep. The report said some might be foreign tech, clutter, whatever, but they left the door open for, quote, something else entirely.
That something else entirely is the bit that grabs everyone, isn't it? The great unknown.
And the top research also brings up the 2023 whistleblower testimony. David Grush, former intel officer, claiming the U.S. has crashed non-human craft, even bodies, and is hiding it.
That testimony definitely poured fuel on the fire. As a whole other layer of claims and intrigue, though obviously requires a ton of verification. But it pushed the conversation forward, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Which brings us to number 1 on our top 10 journey, possibly the most chilling practical admission. We lost a nuclear bomb and never found it.
Oh boy. The Tybee Island bomb.
That's the one. The top research details the incident. 1958, A U.S. B-47 bomber collides with another plane mid-air near Savannah, Georgia. To save the plane and crew during emergency landing, they jettisoned a hydrogen bomb.
Just dropped it into the water off the coast.
Yep, a 7,600-pound Mark 15 nuclear bomb, gone.
And the never found it part is key. That's just staggering. A hydrogen bomb, lost. It really drives home the immense risks of the nuclear age, doesn't it? The potential for accidents.
For sure. The top research says they searched for weeks. Nothing. It's still down there, somewhere in Wausau Sound, just sitting there, for over 60 years.
And there's debate about whether it had its plutonium core installed, right? The top research probably mentions the conflicting reports, even if technically unarmed, the potential long-term environmental hazard, or just the idea of it being lost.
Exactly. Official reports conflict. But the top research adds that a 2004 investigation found a radiation hotspot right near where they think it was dropped.
So something is definitely still down there emitting radiation. That suggests at least some part of it is compromised, a lasting legacy of that accident.
Wow, just wow. Listening back to all this top 10 journey through the top research, it really paints a picture of history that's way stranger, more unpredictable than you'd maybe think.
It really does. Nuking the moon, psychic goats, lost H-bombs. It sounds like fiction.
But it's documented. These aren't just, weird footnotes. They're actual events admitted to, even if accidentally or reluctantly, makes you rethink things.
Absolutely. Looking back over this whole top research compilation, what really stands out is maybe the sheer range of human behavior. Incredible ingenuity right next to potentially catastrophic judgment calls. This relentless drive for an edge leading down some very strange paths.
Yeah. What part of this top research stood out most to you? What was the biggest jaw-dropper?
That's tough. Maybe the sheer breadth of imcultura, the scale of the ethical breach, or maybe just the simple, terrifying fact of the lost bomb. It's hard to pick.
For me, too, it's just a potent reminder, isn't it, that the pursuit of security, of technological advantage, it can get really weird really fast. These declassified moments are like cracks letting us peek behind the official curtain. Makes you question assumptions.
And I think a key takeaway from this top 10 journey, for me anyway, is the vital importance of transparency, of oversight. These stories, mostly revealed through declassification, are cautionary tales, right? About accountability, thinking through consequences, and maybe not always believing the first official story.
Well said. We really hope this top 10 journey wasn't just informative, but maybe sparked some curiosity. If you want to dig deeper, go fact yourself even more. Check the show notes for links to sources and further reading.
And it's worth remembering, these are historical examples, but the dynamics, innovation, security fears, the potential for unintended consequences, those are all still very much with us today, shaping our world.
Definitely. So here's a final thought to chew on. If governments have, on record, tried to weaponize cats, control minds, nuke the moon, and lost a hydrogen bomb, what other unbelievable things, maybe even world-altering secrets, might still be tucked away in classified files?
Gives you something to think about, all right?
It certainly does. Thanks for joining us on this mind-bending edition of Go Fact Yourself, the Top 10 Lists podcast.